Hi everyone. So today we're going to be talking about cause and effect. So this is pertaining to your project 1, and I know you guys have already started working on it, but I just want to talk about it a little bit more and address a little bit of the issues that we have been already seeing. And I want to just address them, and hopefully by the end of the video you'll feel a little bit more comfortable when constructing your draft, formulating your thesis, etc. So first, let's start with what is cause and effect. And many of you may already know this, but let's just go over it a bit more together. So cause and effect shows a relationship of one thing causing another. So why A, cause, leads to B, the effect. And with this, you have a little bit of flexibility. It doesn't have to be straightforward A equals B. It could be B occurred because of A. You can start off with your effects and then continue on with your cause. You can formulate this in whatever way you want. And I really like to drive the point home that you can have more than one of each. And specifically for this project, it is encouraged and it is expected actually for you to present more effects. Probably or hopefully more than 2. But here are just a few simple examples. So the first example says, lava from volcanoes causes forests to burn down, but also fertilizes soil and eventually helps new plants grow healthier. And this is something that I heard in secondary school, but I remembered it and I thought it was a good example. So here we have 2 effects. So our cause, being singular, is just, lava spreading through a forest and it's causing initial damage, burning down wildlife, but then eventually in the long run it can actually fertilize soil and help plants grow stronger and healthier. This is not necessarily something you want to write about, but you get the point. Second example is lifting weights and drinking too much coffee as a child stunted my growth. That should say mine. I apologize. So here it's actually flipped. You have 2 causes that lead to 1 effect. So lifting weights and drinking too much coffee caused me to be 5'2" for the rest of my life. So now you get the picture. So now let's go ahead and talk about something that arises every semester and something that I want to talk a little bit more about, just so perhaps if you're having trouble still choosing a topic to write about, this can help you when deciding. So correlation does not equal causation. So taking a look at the little cartoon here, the stick figure says, I used to think correlation implied causation. Then I took a statistics class. Now I don't. Sounds like the class helped. Well, maybe. You see, there's a correlation here, but that does not mean that just because the stick figure took a statistics class, that did not cause him to understand what correlation versus causation means. He could have learned that somewhere else from someone else, and it just so happened that he was taking a statistics class. So here are just a couple simple definitions of what each these words mean. So correlation is a mutual relationship or connection between 2 or more things, and causation is the act or process or of causing. So causation is what we're really looking for here. We really want that relationship that one thing causes another, not just because they relate to one another or there are there's a small, brief, vague connection between them. That does not mean that they coexist in a cause and effect relationship. So let's take a look at this example that I actually took from my marketing professor, because it just so happened that we were learning about correlation versus causation, and this actually comes from a study that shows that when there is an increase in the amount of murders committed, we see a rise in ice cream sales. So does this mean that right after murderers commit their crime, they go out and celebrate with ice cream, or they get hungry and crave ice cream? Or does eating ice cream, or do people that eat a lot of ice cream like to commit murders? That doesn't make any sense, right? We can't really write an essay about that. It's not going to give you a good grade. So that's a correlation. We see that. We see a trend happening. We see these 2 things occurring at the same time, but that does not mean they caused one another. If we look at the causation, it's heat. Oh wow, what a breakthrough, right? It's the heat that causes both of these things to happen. Heat, when people are hot outside and in summertime, they either want to go grab a cold snack, or the heat can agitate people, frustrate them. You know, they say when temperatures rise, so do tempers in people, and it, you know, that causes murders to happen because they're more agitated and they get into problems, fights, and that leads to murders. So, we need to pay attention to that. So, moving on, I want to talk about underlying causes. So, this is very important, especially when formulating your thesis. This is something that I really need to drive home when, you know, I'm asked for help on thesis construction, and when the writing process actually starts coming to you guys. Not knowing the underlying causes to your arguments can put a pause and kind of give you writer's block. So it's very important that you choose a topic that you can research. That's something that's going to give you rich material. Don't choose a topic that you can't really write anything about. Make sure that there's resources out there, that there's data on the topic that you want to write about. Ask why. And this is something that it's very, very important. I always ask why. And especially in a cause and effect relationship, this is very important. So we can say, what causes the sky to be blue? Well, a scientist can tell you because of the chemicals, or whatever it may be, the sun hitting the ozone layer. I'm not a scientist, but you know. But you can always keep asking why, but why? And there's always going to be more answers to it. Now, for the sake of this assignment, you're not expected to keep adding layer after layer after layer. You just want to make sure that you have sufficient background, that you have sufficient information to prove the point that you're trying to prove, to support the argument that you have chosen to argue for, right? And to actually present that cause and effect relationship. So I always say that there's always another reason, there's always another factor for something that's there. So here's an example. A person can say drinking leads to alcoholism. That's pretty much a given, right? If you drink a lot, more often than not, people will become dependent on it. You can also say drinking leads to deaths. But you can't just say that. You're stuck there. That's not an argument. That's not something that you can really prove unless you choose those underlying causes, right? That's when you start getting more specific. That's when you start narrowing down your argument. So you ask, but why? What is it about alcohol that affects the human body in such a way? So then you can get into the biological, psychological things that take part in this. So also, not all people who drink alcohol die. If that were the case, Mill Avenue here in Tempe would be littered with corpses every Saturday night. You need to be very specific. So why does drinking lead to alcoholism? Well, it could be because of the American culture of going out to drink every day for happy hour. Drinking is a stress outlet. Maybe Americans or our lifestyle nowadays causes people to drink more because of high stress levels. Also, why does drinking cause deaths? It's not just drinking alone, it's the drinking and driving. But why do people drink and drive? Well, it could be because there's not enough awareness nowadays. People don't have the same values now as they used to. Parents might not be educating their kids at home as much as they used to about alcohol and drinking. So there's a lot of things, and these are just a couple examples. There's dozens of other reasons why you can argue that drinking leads to alcoholism and or deaths. So, and finally, find a problem that has a solution, right? Don't choose a topic that's going to get you stuck at a dead end. Don't just say cats and dogs don't get along. Maybe somehow you can write a great essay proving, why, or supporting why cats and dogs don't get along, or why dogs don't like cats. Perhaps, but can you actually find a solution for this? Maybe not. So this is just a silly example again, but choose a topic argument that has or can have a solution. And this is a hint for project 2. You will be expected to continue your project 1 and write another argument, persuasive essay to an audience and encouraging them to make a change and help you carry out the solution that you have for the problem presented in your project 1. So that's all I have for you guys right now. Hopefully this broke down a little bit what is expected from this assignment. And if you have any further questions, as always, you can email me, and we will work further on this, developing thesis and body paragraphs and all that good stuff in the upcoming workshops. But for the meantime, hopefully this helped you, and good luck on your writing process. I will see you on the next video. Bye.